I would say the biggest change of legal education over the last half century is that when I was a student and when I joined the faculty here, legal education was about uh, thinking. It was about teaching students how to think about hard questions and not so much to learn the law as such, and not so much how to practice law, but how to learn the intellectual skills that lawyers need to be creative and original and effective. Over time, what's happened is that there's been a significant shift uh, in many law schools, including to some extent here, towards more practical, hands on courses taught by adjuncts, designed to teach students not only the intellectual skills, but also the skills of actually being an on the ground lawyer. And that occurred mainly because law firms, who used to be perfectly happy hiring young entry level lawyers who knew nothing about practicing law, but were smart and curious, they were perfectly happy to teach them how to be actual on the ground lawyers in the way they wanted them to be on the ground lawyers. But over the years, they've decided that they didn't want to do that. And they wanted people to be able to hit the ground with a much greater capacity to actually be on the ground real lawyers. And so law schools, in order to make sure their students had the opportunities to get the jobs that they wanted, had to accommodate those expectations. And so in almost all law schools today, there are many, many, many more courses that are being offered second and third year students that are quite different from what was offered when I was a student. When I became dean, there were only 3 adjunct professors at the law school. I don't know what the number is today, but it's probably 20 times that. And I understand why we need that because of what the firms want. Um, they want people who are capable of actually entering legal practice and being lawyers, not just being smart and curious and intellectually engaged. But I do think it's a dramatic change in the quality of legal education. Less so here than it has been in most other institutions, but even here to some degree. In terms of thinking to the future of the legal profession, um, what makes me most optimistic is that I think lawyers have been taught to be smart and thoughtful and open minded and to be rigorous in your thinking. And I think that that is essential to a democracy and that lawyers need to play a central role, as they always have, but maybe even more so today than before, in helping to educate the public, in helping to educate public officials, and in shaping what our society believes and thinks about. Because I do worry that in a world of social media, um, too many people are not being exposed to the kind of critical thinking that is essential to be good citizens in a democracy. And lawyers are the best trained people to do that. And I think they need to be more active in terms of organizations that they are part of to present that to individuals and not let it disappear. I think there are 2 major challenges facing free expression in our democracy today. One of them is the impact of social media, that individuals hear and read and see only those things that affirm their beliefs already. Facebook and other entities simply send you more and more and more things like the ones you've liked. And you're not exposed to competing views in the way that you were in the past when you got your information from newspapers and magazines and television and radio and so on. And I think that's very damaging to the culture of a democracy. People need to be open to hearing and thinking about a whole range of competing views. That's how we function effectively in a democracy. And so I think that's a major challenge. And the issue is what do you do about it? I mean, is there some solution to that that is viable and that even would be consistent with the Constitution? But I do think that that's increasingly a challenge. Um, and the other aspect of social media that's troubling is that it deters people from speaking openly about controversial views. I mean, it used to be that you could say something about a controversial view and you would be saying it to the people around you, and you could argue with them about it, and that would be that. But today, they can post it on social media, and you know that it's accessible to far, far more people. And that means that if it's controversial, it may get you in trouble. And so I think it means that people are much more unwilling to be as open-minded and as aggressive in their views as they should be in a free and open society. So that's troubling in terms of free expression. The other is the impact of money in politics. The Supreme Court has opened the door to unlimited impact of corporations and the wealthy in terms of shaping our political system and our electoral system. And I think that was a terrible decision in Citizens United that the Roberts Court made. It overruled a whole stream of prior decisions, and it creates a huge challenge to not only democracy but to free expression. The idea is that the wealthy should not have that much of an impact upon what we hear and what we know. And now that's gotten way out of hand, and it's going to get worse, given the current Supreme Court. So I think that figuring out how to deal with that is a real challenge. In fact, Lee Bollinger, the president of Columbia, with whom I've done many books, and I are now in the process of putting together a book on money in politics. And we think that's really a critical issue as we go forward.